Okay, you're all set. Go ahead.
Thanks, Sarah. We'll call the Monday, May 20th, 2024 meeting of the Community Preservation Committee to order. The roll call. Terry Duenas is not here yet. Marilyn Fifield, is he on board? Nope. Deb Converse?
Yep.
Catherine Garofoli?
Yep.
Tom Lee will not be here tonight. Farley Lewis?
Here.
Stephen Robichaud?
Yes, here.
Lindsay Council is here. This meeting of the Community Preservation Committee is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting and to make their presence known. Seeing none, we'll move to the items for the day. Oh, wait a minute. Let's do the minutes first. That's right. We'll approval of the draft Community Preservation Committee regular meeting minutes from April 22nd, 2024. Has everyone had a chance to look them over?
Yep.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Seconded. Mm-hmm.
Any further discussions, additions, omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Deb Converse?
Here. Yes.
Catherine Garofoli?
I have to abstain. I wasn't there.
Farley Lewis?
Yes.
Steve Robichaud?
Yes.
Lindsay Council votes yes. Marilyn?
Marilyn is here.
Yep. Turn on your mic there, Marilyn. We're voting on the minutes. Marilyn? Hello, Marilyn. Are you with us? I don't think she can hear us. Is she logged in, Sarah, properly, or?
Yeah, I have her logged in twice, so I'm not really sure what's going on. So hopefully
All right.
she'll respond.
Well, the motion carried anyway. Yeah, Marilyn, you're in there twice.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Let's cut her out of one of them. Oh my. Okay. Moving on to the letters of intent.
Lindsay, can I ask? This is Deb Converse. Can I ask a question before we move on to the letters?
Sure.
I'm wondering if we could move up the financial report above the letters of intent. I hate to hold up the application that we have, but the letters of intent, seeing the financials for the first time in several months might be interesting.
Okay, sure. We can go over those. Everyone have those available in front of them? So this is the schedule of unreserved fund balances. And you see the first block there. It lists community housing, historic preservation, open space, the budget reserve, and undesignated. And if you look at the bolded line on the bottom, that tells you the amount of funds available. We have sufficient funds to cover projects for this evening. We have $1,050,000 in community housing. Historic preservation is low with 516. Open space even lower with 503. And then the budget reserve, which covers outstanding expenses due. And we have a budget reserve, very large actually, of $9 million. So we have about $14 million available. So I think that'll cover anything that's coming along tonight. And any questions?
Well, just a concern. If you compare the historic preservation and the open space line items, they're way ahead of the housing, affordable housing, way ahead. And I just don't want, my personal concern is that we get too far ahead of ourselves spending. We do have a lot of money in reserve and available, but we have approved a lot of historical projects. And there's one or two coming back to us to request again, and we still are lagging way far behind in housing. So I just don't want to. I want people to please think about that we're going to have money set aside for some housing. We're still not producing enough units.
And we will have our annual request from the trust fund coming probably after the end of the fiscal year. So we want to allow for that as well.
Yes, we do want to allow for that because they're slowly moving on, but they really have only done a few units so far in the last 2 years. So I just have a concern that we may have to have some money available to, if the state budget gets passed with the affordable housing bond bill, and we may have to do some matching from this town because this town has to step up. So.
Very good. Chris?
Thank you very much, Chair. I attended as did Councilor Starr, the dedication of the veterans housing on Pitcher's Way that provided 8 units. Does that count towards our numbers?
Yeah. Yes. Happily so. Yes.
Right. Good. Thank you.
Okay, Steve.
Yeah, just real quick. So you mentioned that we're going to hear from the trust at the end of the fiscal year. Is that this summer, June, July? Whenabouts is that presentation?
I have no idea. We don't have anything scheduled, but they generally come in at the beginning of each fiscal year to replenish their funding.
I wonder if it might be appropriate to ask them to possibly update us more frequently. Certainly money well spent, I feel. However, we just don't, I don't feel like we get informed about tangible results that are being made. And I don't know, personally, I feel like the progress is too slow. So if we thought it was appropriate, possibly they could come present to us more frequently. I'd really like to know what's going on. We
did just have a report the meeting before last. They sent us a long report.
There was 16.
Yeah, I mean,
16 units in Barnstable.
Definitely, that was very useful, no question. I just love to get them actually in front of us, actually on.
But we'll get them in front when they're asking for the money.
Yeah, no,
they'll be here.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, it's useful to be able to have a back and forth and ask questions. Just get them on the meeting. So.
Okay, we'll let you know as soon as we hear. Anyone else? All right. Thanks
Lindsay,
for that suggestion.
I actually had my hand raised. I agree with Stephen. I absolutely think that we need to prepare for a significant investment in affordable housing. That's why that money is there. But I don't feel comfortable not going forward with other projects and not utilizing some of the undesignated fund if it's in front of us.
Okay.
That's a good.
That's point. Why it's undesignated, and we are fairly conservative with that fund. So we've managed to build up quite an amount that will cover everything I see that's before us. So, and we'll get them in here when they do come in. So we'll get a report.
Yeah, and I agree with Catherine. Thank you for that.
Okay. We'll move to the letters of intent. Everyone good on that? Sorry, I missed that hand up. I don't really look for those. A letter of intent has been received from the Federated Church of Hyannis requesting $165,000 in community preservation, historic preservation funds to conserve 270 gravestones in the Universalist Cemetery that were identified in the 2024 condition assessment prepared by Fan and Lehrer Preservation Consultants. The Federated Church owns the land where the cemetery lies and provides meeting space for several nonprofit groups. The cemetery is listed on the State Register of Historic Places and has an existing preservation restriction recorded. The church will donate $1,000 in in-kind donations from volunteers providing ongoing research and management. And with us tonight, we have the volunteer on the project, Pam Brown, to give us an overview.
Lindsay, real quick, before the applicant, just want to state for the record that the company I work for does have a relationship with the Federated Church. However, this letter of intent is unrelated to that relationship, and for that reason, I have no conflict of interest, so I will not be recusing myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Very appropriate. Pam, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Pam Brown. I live in Hyannis. I first came before this committee in May of 2016 to ask for your help in saving this cemetery, which is in poor condition. You responded. Do I have the slides, Sarah?
Yeah, give me 1 sec.
Okay. Okay, so the project first got underway in 2018 with a CPA grant to cover two things: fencing and a condition assessment. The fencing was completed in the summer of 2018. Are you moving those slides? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I accidentally hit the keyboard.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll stay on this one for a minute. The condition assessment was completed earlier this year. This is a report that's required by conservators who wish to submit proposals for conservation work on the stones. This project was complicated by the fact that there were virtually no records on the cemetery, which will be 200 years old in a few years. Mm-hmm. The church buildings had burned to the ground twice, and the town held no records other than a book of epitaphs. We now have a complete inventory of the permanent residents and know the location of their graves by section and row numbers established by the conservator. Several gravestones were uncovered that had sunk below ground. The original estimate of 300 gravestones has grown to over 350. Through research, we have discovered more sea captains, 36 in total, more Civil War veterans, 17 in total, and more information on many of these early settlers of the village of Hyannis. So these slides will give you an overview of the cemetery and the work, some of the work to be done. This is a view from Elm Avenue, looking south to the church. The appearance of the cemetery has been greatly enhanced by the fencing. It is clear that this is a space that is being cared for and preserved. We no longer see trespassers and evidence of vandalism, alcohol, or drug abuse. Next slide, please. Sarah there? Thank you. The pedestrian access is by a baby center, which is toward the back of the Federated Church. And the access is behind the van, the minivan you see parked in the back of this little parking lot. This is at the corner of Elm Avenue and Willow Avenue. Elm runs parallel to Main Street, 1 block north. Next slide. This is the pedestrian gate, which is closed but unlocked. And you can see how nice the fencing is in that picture. And the next slide shows the vehicle gate, which is locked and is used mainly for lawn mowing equipment. More of the fencing from 2018 is visible here. The next slide is a view of the cemetery from the church building, looking north to Elm Avenue. And next is the southeast section of the burial ground. Note the many fallen stones lying flat on the ground. some of which were discovered underground and were excavated by the conservator. Next, we have the earliest stone dated 1826 of Caroline Simmons, daughter of Lemuel B. and Temperance Simmons, died July 10, 1826, aged 1 year, 6 months, and 20 days. Her father was a sea captain. They had 10 children. 2 died very young. 1 son died at sea. Temperance died while giving birth in 1841. Lemuel was remarried to Eliza Bierce. The slate stone is notable for its excellent condition and was carved by Nathaniel Holmes, the first resident gravestone carver on Cape Cod. He often used willow and urn motifs. As a willow on this one. 28 stones in this burial ground were carved by him. His home still stands on Route 6A in Barnstable Village. The Simmons family homestead, built in 1820, still stands on Scudder Avenue, now a bed and breakfast and home of the Toad Hall Classic Sports Car Collection, all red cars you may have noticed while driving by the property. Next slide is Leander Baxter, who served in the Civil War, born 1820, enlisted in the U.S. Navy at Boston in April 1864. A few months later, he was transferred from the USS Ohio to the U.S. Naval Hospital in Chelsea, died December 28, 1872. This is a marble military headstone, which is fallen and broken. The treatment, as outlined in the condition assessment, is to search for the bottom fragment, excavate, clean, drill and pin, reset, and infill. All of these steps are described in detail in the condition assessment. For example, reset is usually to set the stone in sand and pea stone. And infill refers to using a lime-based mortar to fill in breaks in the stone. Next slide is another Civil War veteran, James Blagden, born in 1846, and he died in a hospital after being in Virginia. He died at a hospital in Washington, D.C. of his wounds, June 15, 1864. It's a marble stone with an unusual flag motif. And I also want to point out the fence on this side of the cemetery, which is the side parallel to Barnstable Road. And next slide just shows more of the stone. Next slide. It's, oh, one back. Okay, well, anyway, it showed the stone is leaning and needs to be straightened out. The treatment is to excavate all the bases, clean, reset the bases, pin dye to the base. And next, we have Captain John Norris, a deep water sea captain, died May 15, 1887. This is a marble and granite stone which has fallen. Treatment is to remove as much of the iron pins as possible. Iron pins wreak havoc with stone, and they need to be treated if they're present. Encapsulate the pins, clean, pin dye to the marble base, and use a large infill. Next stone. This is Charles Goodspeed, MD, believed to be the first doctor in Hyannis. He lived from 1769 to 1848. This is a marble headstone, which is broken and fallen. This stone is signed by the moderately well-known Elisha Eveleth. There are very few stones signed by carvers here. Nathaniel Holmes did not sign any of his stones. And next slide. This shows the pieces, the fragments of his stone. The treatment is to clean, drill, and pin and reset the bottom fragment and base, which are below grade. Next slide. This is Daniel Snow Hallett and his wife Lydia, marble and sandstone. Her stone has fallen and its base is broken. He was the first lighthouse keeper in Hyannis. In the 1840s, when over 200 shipmasters were living in Hyannis and Hyannisport, Daniel recognized the need for a lighthouse and decided to privately establish one. He printed directions on how to sail into the harbor and sold them to the captains of coasters to help finance the light. Then successfully petitioned Congress for the establishment of an official lighthouse, and a new light was built in 1849. The South Hyannis Light was decommissioned in 1929 and is now privately owned and can be seen from the harbor or by driving to the end of Harbor Road. Daniel's epitaph reads, "His record is on high." And finally, the last slide. These are Johnson family stones from the 1800s. This family visited last summer and decided to engage the services of our conservator, the Fannin Lehner Preservation Consultants, to conserve these 3 stones at the family's expense. Work is to begin late summer and is expected to be done over 3 days, as each stone requires multiple procedures. More families have visited, mostly from out of state, and we have been able to lead them to their ancestor stones for their genealogical research. This is the first family to show interest in conserving their stones. Hopefully there will be more. And I will answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much. Very nice presentation. Any questions from members? Anybody? Deb? Your mic is off.
So you'll have a record of the books of all the stones and the little stories you just told us about their background available?
We have those records, yes.
Because that's the interesting part. It's really fascinating, honestly.
Yeah, I'd like to figure out a way to, actually put some sort of a book together, because we've done so much research and we have so many different files. And that'll be something that I'll work on.
Yeah, because that makes them more captivating,
Mhm.
Good.
I'm also hoping to do a walking tour this fall.
Oh.
I haven't done that yet, but I'll make sure you hear about it, just to show people more of the history there.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else with a question for Pamela? Anyone sensing? Yes.
I'll make a motion that we move this forward to application.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Very good. Before we go to a vote, I'll open this for public comment. If you would like to speak in public comment, please state your name. And you will go for 3 minutes. Anyone here to speak to this item? Nobody? I see someone connecting to audio, but anyway, seeing no one. I'll call the roll. Terry Duenas.
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield. Marilyn, are you with us? I'll come back to Marilyn. Deb Converse.
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli.
Yes.
Farley Lewis.
Yes.
Stephen Robichaud.
Yes.
Lindsay Council votes yes. Marilyn, are you with us? Hello, Marilyn. She seems to still be having troubles. But we have a quorum there, so the motion passes. All right. Next item. A letter of intent has been received from the Barnstable Fire District Prudential Committee requesting community preservation open space funds for the acquisition of 2.7 acres of land located at 153 Oakmont Road in Comaquid for potential public water supply. This parcel was highlighted in the 1994 USGS survey of potential public water supply areas on Cape Cod. Purchase of this parcel will protect this area from development and conserve it for use as a potential future water well field. Anyone here from the district to speak to that?
Lindsay, I'm Steve Rizzo. I'm up in Comaquid. The Prudential Committee has asked me to speak to it.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
So, as you may know, the Water Department owns 10 acres on Oakmont Road at I'm sorry, I don't have the address, but it's they own 10 acres on Oakmont Road, and the parcel that we're talking about here is the adjacent parcel, and it has come up for sale, and it is available for purchase. The current asking price is $549,900, but we'd like to get it assessed before we give them a full offer. I'm sorry, we'd like to get it appraised, yes. I have a birdie in my ear whispering.
No problem.
The parcel itself is part of a group of parcels that were designated by the Cape Cod Commission under the what was the old public land acquisition assessment and acquisition program as parcel A1W-53. And it encompasses a number of parcels on Oakmont Road. This one is right in the middle of that group. And if it is developed, the parcels could never be used for water. Because when the original parcel was given to the fire district, it was taken by eminent domain in 1971. And it was specific in the deed that it was to be used for water supply. Since 1971, Mass General Laws 310 CMR 22 came into effect, and that required the 400-foot radius for Zone 1 well protection areas. And the current parcel of 10 acres is not wide enough to satisfy that requirement for a well protection zone. So the parcels adjacent were designated by the Cape Cod Commission, and they still are designated by the Cape Cod Commission, and as a group of tract, and it's that's the tract that we hope to be able to use in the future for water. We have no need right now, but if this one parcel gets developed, then the entire tract is useless. Including the 10 acres that we already own. So that's why there's a desire to acquire this parcel. Additional parcels would need to be acquired in the future, but if this one goes by the wayside, we won't bother. So that's pretty much my presentation. There isn't much to it, but this is where we are. We want to get the site appraised and then make an offer to the owner.
All right. Thank you very much. Interestingly enough, another parcel on that street has become available. That's number 87 Oakmont from the Cobb Trust, which is a 7.5 acre parcel. And the trustee has subdivided that, and they've been doing perk tests there. So that one is currently on the market. And there was also a piece in there next door to that, number 105, that's owned by the town. So interesting situation out there.
Just if I may, the tract that was designated by the that's listed on the regional policy plan by Cape Cod Commission includes all of the parcels up to number 105.
Yes, and there's one home, right, on number 119?
That's right. It's at the very front of the parcel. And there is sufficient space behind it for a well zone without disturbing that house.
But you'd have to get,
Yes, we would.
some kind of easement or restriction on the back of that?
That's correct.
Okay, and then there's the 137, which is owned by the Slaybon family, right?
That's correct. And we have not talked to them. We'd like to get this one resolved first, and then we'd move on to that.
Okay, well, interesting little setup here. Question from the members?
I have a question.
Farley, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, who actually owns this parcel right now?
This is owned by Marty
Yeah.
Marty Riley Trust, I believe.
Right, he is deceased. As I remember, we had this parcel before us previously that was slated for development. So now his heirs or whatever have this parcel on the market. Is that what I'm to understand?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Steve?
Just Mr. Rizzo, if at some point this was converted into, a potential future water well field, is it assumed that that water would go solely to the Barnstable Fire District, or is it possible that it could aid a neighboring district such as Hyannis?
Currently, the infrastructure is such that it would go to the Barnstable Fire District. Now, the Barnstable Fire District has a cross connection with Yarmouth, so it would be potentially available there. As far as I know right now, there is no cross connection to the Hyannis Water District, but there certainly could be one in the future if we could work that out. The Hyannis Water Department water towers are just at the end of Althea and Mary Dunn, so it wouldn't take much to connect to their system, I don't think.
Yeah, that was my thought, and I know that in the future Hyannis may have a need. So I was just curious about that.
Yeah, they are looking all over for water wherever they can find it, I think. The interesting thing about this acreage that's here, we look back at the surveys, the aerial surveys that were done through the years, and this block has always been forested since 1938, and as far back as the records go. So as far as we know, that it has not been used for any industrial purpose. It hasn't been used for any purposes other than forest.
That's great information, and I think that need will be there in the future, and all the more reason to preserve this lot.
Catherine?
I have two questions. One, you mentioned that if the property was developed, it would make the remaining 10 acres of district land for a well impossible. Did I get that correctly?
Yeah, the reason is because of the 400-foot radius requirement for Zone 1 for well protection areas. That 400-foot radius literally takes up almost the entire tract of 4 or 5 parcels. So if this one parcel, which is right in the middle, is developed, then the parcels are no longer good for water.
My second question is, considering the issues with PFAS coming from the airport and with the fire academy, have you done any analysis of where the PFAS will be migrating in the lens?
From what we can tell, the PFAS is migrating to the southeast, which is actually away from this site. Now, that being said, we have not done an exploratory well on the properties. So there still would need to be done, but we know that the aquifer is there, and we know that the water is certainly there. The other thing that I need to point out is that if you look at the regional policy plan viewer on the Cape Cod Commission site, there were 3 parcels or 3 tracts that were designated in 2018. Of those three, two of them, one was actually in Yarmouth, and it was designated YAW, and I forget the exact number, but it was designated as a potential public water supply site, and also A1W-54, and both of those sites have been developed. So they're lost to us as potential future public water supply. This is the last one in this area, other than the Cumberland Golf Club, which is privately held.
Deb, did I see your hand?
Yeah, but go ahead with Farley first.
Farley, you?
Just wondering if there is a price tag on this piece, and if I mean it's being presented on the open market, or is this?
It is on the open market for $549,900.
Okay.
We don't think it's worth that, which is why we'd like to have it appraised.
Yeah,
And this-
appraisal would be required by us as well, too.
Yeah. This is where my question comes in about the appraisal. If it's going to be just land and forest, does it appraise lower than if you were going to be building on it, or doesn't it matter?
I would expect it would appraise lower, but it has to be comped with values, other lands of similar value, of similar ilk type.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not entirely accurate. It's appraised at its highest, the best use, which is single family homes. And you pay for it if it's subdivided into two lots. That's the way the appraisal is going to read.
Okay. All right.
So the other thing too, we've looked at very briefly number 87, and that has some potential if we're to get a restriction on the lot in between. And I suggest we get our hydrologist from Sole Source to take a look at all this area. It would be foolish to spend money on this one and then miss the one next door. And we could make a good effort to acquire that, because we definitely need a site for Barnstable. If this is going to be it, I think we need to make a full court press on it, decide what we're going to do out there, and move forward. Any other questions from members? I believe there's some people here to speak to this, so why don't we take public comment? And again, state your name for the record, and raise your hand, and I'll recognize you. Anybody here to speak to that?
Okay.
Lindsay Wellesley Marsh has raised her hand.
Yes, go right ahead. I don't see those little yellow hands too well. Go ahead, Wellesley.
Thank you. They're very hard to see. I agree. Wellesley Marsh, Barnstable Village. As Steve Rizzo had mentioned, this is one of the last available potential well sites for our area. And with the PFAS issue, the ever-growing need for affordable housing and housing in general, now is the time to really secure potential well sites so that we have future water for everyone. We're already dealing with water contamination, and just a couple of years ago, we already had water bans in place because of the need versus what we had because of the drought. I see this parcel and any potential parcels adjoining it as really another shot at getting it back under protection, because what we have as an option now, we might never have again. So it's just so critical for us to protect any potential water source as well as existing sources that we have because of the future issues we might be facing. So what we do today will hopefully protect the most precious resource we have here on the Cape, because we're single source aquifer. So whatever we can do, we're doing it for all of our future residents, kids, everything. And this will also, if we get it protected and we do have more affordable housing and housing, this will go to help, supply those homes with hopefully safe drinking water. So it's critical that we do everything we can to protect the last few options that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Wellesley. Any other people to speak to the letter of intent?
Yes,
regarding-
Lindsay Alvina is raising her hand.
Okay. Go ahead.
As soon as she figures out how to unmute it.
I'm just unmuting myself. Hi, my name is Alvina Baxter Moran. I live up in Comaquid, and I just want to support exactly what Wellesley just got through saying, verbatim. And a critically important water resource, and it's not a resource that we will get more of. Once it's gone, as Wellesley said, it's gone, and it would be a dwindling resource. And so I'm passionately requesting that you look into this to protect what we have. As as it was said long ago, we're not getting any more. It's not going to increase. We're not going to get a new water resource, source area, any other place. This is it. So protect it and do what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Alvina.
Well,
Anyone else like to speak to this request? I don't see anyone. Am I missing anyone? I don't think so. Okay, members, any other questions, comments, motion? What do you think? You want to wait till we get a more accurate price on this before we go to a letter of intent? How do you want to handle it?
Well, I was going to suggest that, but I was going to move it forward, but maybe we should wait till we get sort of an appraisal first. Because I think 500 is a little high. But can we put a caveat in the motion, to move it forward, or just ask for
I just moved the letter of intent forward. The application will include all the details. We'll get the appraisal.
Okay.
We want to get, the groundwater looked at. Shouldn't take long. And we'll come back with a little more information on some of the other parcels out there.
Okay. All right.
Does that work for you, Steve?
I like that. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. Farley?
Yeah, I was just reviewing the notes that we have from the October 2022 meeting regarding this property, and I see that the purchase price was $325,000 for that property back when Mr. Riley purchased it.
Yes, I believe that's what he paid.
Yeah, so I agree. I mean, the $500,000 price tag seems a bit high.
I don't think it was subdivided, but back then, so he's had two lots. One of them has a long
All right.
driveway,
Okay.
so it's been through planning. I believe, Steve, did they come to planning board for this? Do you recall?
It did. Yes, so obviously you're going to be seeing a different value there if a subdivision is possible.
So.
All right. Okay.
That answers that.
Yep. Well, in which case I move it to application.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the Oakmont Road? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Terry Duenas.
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield.
yes.
Deb Converse.
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli.
Yes.
Farley Lewis.
Yes.
Steve Robichaud.
Yes.
And Lindsay Council votes yes. Thank you very much. Steve will be in touch. I believe we have a meeting we're going to set up this week. So we'll get down and get started.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate it. And everybody, thank you for your time and your consideration.
All right. Thank you. Okay. On to the next letter of intent. A letter of intent has been received from the Historical Society of Santuit and Katuitt requesting $30,000 in community preservation, historic preservation funds to fund the restoration of the homestead and buttery and the remaining HVAC work that was previously approved by CPC in 2021, with $3,000 remaining from the 2021 grant. This work has not been started due to cost overages in other awarded areas, resulting in the need for supplemental funds for completion. The property is listed on the State Register of Historic Places and has an existing preservation restriction recorded. Who will be speaking to this? Stephen?
Lindsay, real quick before you start, I am going to recuse myself on this item. The company I work for does have a relationship with this applicant, and there may be a future conflict of interest. For that reason, I'm going to recuse myself, turn off my video and audio, and I will return when this item is complete.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Much appreciated. And I will note for the record that we still have a quorum with Steve's recusal. Okay. Who's going to be speaking to this?
Hi, Lindsay. My name's Beth Johnson. I'm president of the Katuitt Historical Society.
Welcome.
With me is Steve Devlin. He's our project manager for the project in question. And just to give you a little background, you awarded us a CPC grant of $87,500 back in January of 2022. And the project is just about 90% done. The museum looks great. Our archives are in good shape. And it's really, the project's really been well received. We've used all but $3,000 of our CPC funds, but we have two major components that haven't been addressed yet, which is the buttery in our historic homestead, and also the HVAC work in the homestead. And the reason we haven't gotten to that is they were going to be done last anyway, but there were some significant unforeseen issues on our construction that caused a lot of overages on the project that we had to address before these. The two things, one thing in general materials, building materials, quite substantially increased in the year that we had estimated to the actual year that we started construction. The costs just went up significantly, but also unforeseen was when we were building our climate controlled basement for our archives. We had some structural issues where when we estimated it, it was under 30,000 square feet, and our contractor, I'll let Steve talk to this, but go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, the basement is really important to the project because that is where we are keeping all the artifacts in good working condition with HVAC and everything else. The original building only ends up being blocks on grade, so it had no real depth. And when we get down to our full 9-foot depth, it was very precarious position with the building. We brought in an architect structural engineer to help us at that point, and he really upped the size of the foundation, the thickness, the walls, the rebar, retaining wall inside. All that worked out, but cost more. And the biggest problem was we hit some really bad rain situations where it flooded several times. That's another thing we never knew because we only blocks on grade before before that the water system was in that shape. So we were able to redig around and add a system with dry wells, and it worked. It worked, and the foundation is in great shape. But the problem is we went from a $12,000 foundation to about $40,000. It tripled in cost when we added all the drainage issues and the structural issues to keep the retaining wall and the existing building in place. So that's pretty much the whole thing.
So we're coming back to you, even though you approved these items back in 2022, we have not started that work because we have run out of CPC funds to do that.
Okay.
we're requesting some additional monies in the $30,000 we estimate should cover our next two items in the project to complete it.
And that is the exact amount of the overage, really,
Yeah.
of stabilizing the foundation situation.
Okay. Questions, members? No questions? I can understand your overages. You probably should have come to us, though, and let us know that. But what's done is done. I'd like to finish the project, obviously. That's my feeling on the matter. Any other comments, thoughts from members? Terry. Microphone, Terry?
Unmute. There we go.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that we, where the precedent lies in terms of expenditures of CPA funds, and then coming back to say we need this for overages. What do we have to do procedurally, or what do we have to require the project so it can be completed and still follow our guidelines? That's the only thing I'm concerned about. I can certainly realize they need it, but
we haven't had this situation that I recall. It was part of the project, so they just wound up costing more. I guess just coming back and asking for more. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say this was unforeseen to us, so we did not budget this whole upgrade in the structural design of the foundation at all.
Right. Also, this is the very first phase of work, so it's way back at the beginning, over a year ago. And we say it was over, but we're thinking we get through the job and we can make it all work out. And basically, that's another part of it. So it came out to be exactly the problem we have at the end.
Any other comments from members?
Lindsay?
I mean, it's best to have a good foundation before you worry about carpentry work and restoration of a portion of the upstairs. So I can understand the logic in doing it. Someone had a question?
Lindsay, Marilyn.
Yes, Marilyn.
I was just going to say, it sounds like everything they've done has been important for the protection of the artifacts. So we should keep that in mind too.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Any, no other questions? Let me see if there's anyone here from the public that wishes to speak to the request from the Katuitt-Santuit Historic Society. Is anyone here to speak to that? Seeing none. Any other thoughts, members? Motion to move this to application? We could certainly get more detail on the background if you'd like during the application. Maybe get a look at some plans. Oh, we have another member joining the group. Anyone with a motion? One way or the other?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion. We move this to application. I think we do need to require them to reapply.
Yes.
For it, just strictly from a procedural standpoint. And I mean, there's no question. And I think the money that they're asking for is probably short money for the substantial foundation. So
yeah,
I'll make a motion that we move it to application.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Deb seconds. Any further discussion of members? Yes, Catherine.
I guess I would really like to see a follow-up fundraising plan for this project as well, to see what other sources of funds, because 2022 was a little while ago, and I'll look back in the applications there, but I'd really like to know if you're also pursuing other sources of funds.
Yes, I can answer that right now. So we have an ongoing capital campaign where we're, fundraising for this as well. These two items that I was talking about are only a portion of our next phase 2 of our project. However, they don't come under CPC items that would be approved by your committee. So yes, we are fundraising for sure.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Any other questions from members? And no one was here from the public to speak to that, so I will call the roll on the motion to remove the letter of intent from the Katuitt-Santuit Historic Society. Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Marilyn Pipefield,
Yes.
Deb Converse,
Yes.
Kathleen Garofoli,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
and Lindsay Council votes yes. Thank you very
Lindsay,
much.
Wait, Lindsay, I have one question on that. So we resubmit for the items, the buttery and the HVAC system in the homestead that we have not completed yet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
A little background included in the plan for, where the overage came and
Yep.
would be good.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. That's the end of letters of intent. Our next item is an application. An application has been received from the Barnstable Land Trust, the BLT, requesting $250,000 in community preservation open space funds for acquisition of a 5.84 acre parcel addressed at 4609 Falmouth Road, Katuitt, map 024, parcel 042. Total purchase price of the parcel is $590,000 with an application for a Mass Conservation Partnership grant for $300,000 to be submitted in July 2024. $50,000 will be requested from the Katuitt Fire District Board of Water Commissioners in support of the project at an upcoming district meeting. The parcel has frontage on Falmouth Road and abuts a BLT 5.9 acre conservation area to the south. Public access will be off Santuit Newtown Road. The acquisition would create almost 12 acres of contiguous open space, conserving high-value natural resources and recreation areas, as well as protecting nearby drinking water wells within a water protection zone or Zone 2. The town of Barnstable would be granted a conservation restriction on the property, and the property will be managed by the BLT. And Janet Milkman from the Land Trust is here to present this application.
Thank you, Lindsay. Good evening, everyone. Sarah, do we have the slides? Thank you. So the project locus, this is looking down on Route 28 in Katuitt, just near where Route 130 comes in on the left from the north. And the project locus is in white there. You'll see it's between the parcel we currently own just to the south in purple and a CR on land just to the north that BLT holds. It is in the Zone 2, as Lindsay said in the description. And you can see the proximity to the wells, which are those blue circles. Mm-hmm. We go to the next slide. This just shows the proximity to the high conservation value land just to the north and across Falmouth Road. The next slide, please. Again, the highest conservation value land is to the north and south. The conservation value and the importance of this property is really that it's in zone 2, and that it has a likely vernal pool on it. We are getting that certified right now, but we did find some big egg masses there. So we're confident that that is a vernal pool. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that it is almost entirely prime farmland soils. And the next slide, almost entirely prime forest land. And the final slide, which just shows an aerial photo, that it is primarily still undisturbed woodland. The wet area down on the bottom is where we think the vernal pool is, and that sort of the kettle hole there is partly in this property and partly in the BLT land. I think that's it for the slides. Thank you, Sarah. There are trails, existing trails in the BLT property just to the south, which can be easily extended into this property, making it a really nice neighborhood trail system. And I think that's, oh yeah, just on the budget, we would be able to leverage the CPA funding with Katuitt Water District funding. That vote is scheduled for later this month. And we're applying for a conservation partnership grant of just under $300,000. So the bulk of the funding will be from grants, and then BLT will be responsible for raising another $30,000 or so in private funding. Any questions?
Public access will be off of Santuit Newtown, right? A little turnout to get up into the trail system?
Yes. Yes.
Janet, I have a question.
Go ahead.
In the aerial shot, as part of your presentation, I noticed up in the left corner it looked as though the neighbor may have encroached on the property. Are you going to have it surveyed? Have you talked with them?
Yes, it is being surveyed, and part of the purchase and sale agreement was that they deal with all of the encroachment. In their case, they own it, so it wasn't encroachment at the time, but it's,
I see.
So it's owned by the owners of the Bellagio restaurant right next door. But that is part of the agreement that they deal with that it's actually not paved. So that's the good news. And they do have some dumpsters on there, which they'll remove. And there's a few other little encroachment things happening that they'll have to take care of before.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Farley.
Hi, Janet. I was just wondering about this Mass Conservation Partnership grant for $300,000. Is that a pretty certain that you'll get that? Or, I know you have to fit a lot of pieces together, just, hoping that works out.
Yes, it's always, it's never certain.
Yeah.
It's, the state has quite a bit of money now, which is why they raised the amount that they're giving for this type of grant from $175,000, which is what it was last year, to $300,000. But it does always depend on what the competition is from other land projects. And so it's not a certain thing.
Okay.
There could be an opportunity for a drinking water supply protection grant if that doesn't come through.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our plan B at this point.
Plan B. Okay. Yeah, I just was wondering whether you had any sort of backup in mind in case things didn't work the way you hoped to.
Yeah, good question.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, at this time, I'll ask for any public comment on this project. Anyone here to speak to this matter?
Hello.
Yes, Wellesley.
Yellow hand again. Thank you. very much like the letter of intent for the other parcel, you know, I just recognize this application and this project as, again, such an important and rare opportunity for us to acquire a parcel of land that could potentially help to protect the existing drinking water wells that we have in the ground. And it's an incredible value. And I'm just hoping we can all get behind this and protect what we have for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak to this? All right, seeing none. Any further discussion on this one, members? Anyone want to take a site visit? You all comfortable with voting as is? How would you like to do it? Anyone have a motion?
I move that we approve the Barnstable Land Trust request for $250,000 out of the open space component of CPC funds to fund the purchase of, don't quote me, let me get the address, for the purchase of, shoot.
4609 Falmouth Road.
Thank you, 4609 Falmouth Road in Katuitt.
Is there a second?
I'll second it with the caveat that I want to see where the trails are. It's in my backyard, kind of, so cool.
No trails yet, but you can, there is the roadway on the western, eastern boundary. You can take a peek up there. Seconded, moved and seconded. Any other comments before I call the roll? Seeing none. Terry Duenas.
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield.
Yes.
Deb Converse.
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli.
Yes.
Carly Lewis.
Yes.
Stephen Robichaud. Stephen, are you with us? Stephen? Can't hear you. Are you muted? Yeah, he's giving me the thumbs up. And Lindsay Council votes yes. Thank you very much, Janet, for that presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it for applications and letters of intent. So I can move on to correspondence, which we had gone over. That was the report from Mark Milne. We'll go into project updates. Another one through the land trust is the Wheeler Road project. The easement plan has been prepared. So that will be able to be recorded when the closing comes up in June. And the final conservation restriction on the house lot was approved by the town council at their last meeting. So that's good news on that. Mashpee Selectmen did approve the CR to Mass Fish and Wildlife for the Mills property. So last steps on that will be have our town attorneys schedule a closing on that, and we can finally take that one off our list. We got the final architectural drawings for the old Colonial Courthouse, and they're looking to finish that project up this summer. And we did check, and the progress is being made on the Centerville and Osterville playgrounds. I don't know if you've been by the Osterville site, the old Osterville school site, but the rec building is down, and they're going to finish the ball field. So it looks completely different without the rec field in there. It looks like a real park. So it's really quite something. If you're out in Osterville Way, take a look over there. And I checked again on the Cape Cod Rail Trail Phase 3. The CRs are finished for that. So the final paperwork's going in, and I was reassured by this Cape Cod Commission staff that the bidding for the project will be advertised in August. So that one is out to bid. And again, that's the state's Department of Transportation's #1 bikeway project, so I'm pretty confident it won't get rolled over again. So that's what I had. Next item on the agenda is our annual meeting on June 17th. It's going to be a straight up format with our annual meeting first. And we'll take public comment at that meeting. If you have plans or would like something specific, you'd like to see us work on or move forward, you can bring it up. That'll be in person at Town Hall. So allows plenty of time to get out of work and get there. And that will be 5:30 June 17th. And we're all set for that, right, Ellen? We still have that room reserved. It hasn't been bumped out of there.
No, we do have it. It's going to be first. It's actually July 15th. And it's going to, the annual
July
meeting.
is the annual meeting. So what are we going to do the
July
format for
15th.
June? July 15th is the annual meeting. Okay, great. Then June will be the regular format?
Yes.
All right, not a mistake. Thanks for correcting me on that. So then I guess we'll be seeing the 3 letters of intent in June before the annual meeting, which is good. And would you like to do that in remote format again, or? We seem to work well in remote. So let's keep that, and we'll go from there. Anything else from members? Anything we missed? I think we're in pretty good shape. We're still waiting on a confirmation of a rec member. I did get a question from Chris Clark regarding that. It's apparently not in the town charter, if I'm saying that correct, to have a recreation member, but I do believe it's part of the Community Preservation Act. Anyway, they're researching that, and hopefully we'll get that resolved for the June meeting. Anything else? Any public comment on anything? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Terry Duenas.
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield.
Yes.
Deb Converse.
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli.
Yes.
Farley Lewis.
Yes.
Stephen Robichaud.
Yes.
And Lindsay Council votes yes. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you all
You.
Have a good night.
June